Hi friends, welcome to my channel. My name's Fiddle. Today I'll be showing you how to make this apothecary desk along with a little box and, if we have time, a chair. But before we get into it, I have some amazing news. I made YouTube partner and I am so excited about it. And I wanted to say a quick thank you for all of you who have been following along. I wouldn't have gotten this far without you, and I really do appreciate every single one of you. Thank you. There's so much more to come, and I can't wait. Okay, now that the mushy stuff is out of the way, let's move on to this project. As always, don't forget to check the link in the description. That would take you to the Scavenger Hunt, where you can find the list of materials and free printable pattern so you can follow along and make this desk with me. Are you ready? Let's go. We're going to start with making the desk first, so let's only cut those pattern pieces out for right now so we don't lose the other ones. I'm using a combination of wood and chipboard, and for the chipboard pieces I am doubling up my layers. You'll have to account for that because I did not add that to the pattern because I know some people would rather use wood. Once you have your pattern traced, we can cut them out. Now that we have all of our pieces cut out, we can start gluing them together. I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but I figured out the easiest way to get pieces to stay together and straight is to use painter's tape on the corners while they're drying. You can make a jig or whatever way you think is best, but this is just how I do it. The first pieces we're going to glue on are the outer sides, one on each end. Now that we have the sides glued on, we can glue the top on. For the top piece, I did choose to use wood. This is actually a piece of cedar from when we had cedar plank salmon, about a year ago. But I've kept it around because it was a nice, sturdy, thick piece of wood, and it's perfect for tabletops. Once you've glued your pieces together, set them aside to dry, and we're going to start making the drawers. Add tape along all four sides of the bottom, then one of the small side pieces. Then add glue along the long edge and stick it to the bottom. Fold your tape flaps up to hold it in place. Keep going until you have all the sides on. Repeat the process for all 6 drawers. When you have the drawers made, set them aside. The desk should be dry enough now that we can start working on it again. The next pieces we're going to add are the ones labeled between drawer shelves. These are technically optional. The only purpose they serve is to help the drawer sit flat on the inside. To make sure we're gluing these in the right place, you can take your paper pattern and lay it on the inside up against the back and draw a line just at the bottom edge of the drawer. Then glue your pieces on that line. Now that the shelves are in place, we can put tape on the sides and glue on the face. The next pieces to go on are the inside sides. Next is the top underside, and really this piece could be optional as well, but I went ahead and put it on mine. It was a little bit difficult to get in, so you may have to trim it. And the final two pieces for the bottom of the desk are the bottoms, and I believe I had 3 layers on each of these. Okay, now that we have the bottom portion of the desk done, set it aside so it can dry, and we're going to move on to making the drawer faces. For these, I did decide to use wood, and I found an interesting way to give a little bit more detail and give them their handles by using paper brads. Open up the brads completely and then lay it across the front of the drawer, then fold over the edges as tightly as you can. Add E6000 to the underside of the brads and on the drawer face, then glue it to the rest of the drawer. Hold it in place with clamps until it dries. Repeat the process for all 6 drawers. Once you have the drawer faces on, set them aside and we're going to move on to making the top part. For this, you'll need the 2 Dollar Tree wood tray holders. For the first one, we need to cut it down the center. To do this, I used a combination of my Easy Cutter and a craft knife. Once you have the sides cut apart, give them a good sanding and then set them aside. Next, I'm going to show you how to make your own hinges. For this, you'll need a ruler, a pencil, and a piece of chipboard. Draw a line about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of your board. Then, using your ruler, mark every 1/4 of an inch along that line. Now make a line about 1/4 of an inch away from your last one. Then draw lines going across at each one of the 1/4 inch marks that you had made. Next, draw another line a 1/4 inch away from the last one. Then going down the center, use your eraser and erase the mark on every other side. This will give you a zigzag pattern. Because of the length of my piece right here, I'm only going to get 2 usable hinges out of this, but we need 4 hinges in all, and each one needs 3 tabs. Tabs being the zigzaggy part. Then using a craft knife, cut your pieces out, but try to keep your pairs together so that way you know they'll fit just in case there's any discrepancies in size. Okay, for the next step, it isn't exactly necessary, but it does help in the process. I did put double-sided tape on the back side of my hinge pieces. This is so I could tape them to my baking pan aluminum and not have to worry about it sliding around while I trace and cut out the pattern. Once I had them taped and cut out again, I stuck them to a small piece of flat baking pan aluminum. This is the throwaway baking pans that you can get at any grocery store, but if you're looking for something a little bit stronger than baking pan, then I would suggest like a tuna can lid or a Spam lid. Those would work really well. However, they are harder to work with and it will take a toll on your hands. They do have some pretty thick pans though. Once you have your pieces cut out of aluminum, take a pair of nippers and trim the slightest bit off of the U-shaped pieces on the inside edges. This opens up the space a little bit so our pieces aren't grinding together, and it makes it easier to open and close. We just want to take a little sliver off, not a whole lot. Once I had all my pieces cut, I peeled off the chipboard backing. Now we're ready to curl the ends of our hinges. For this you'll need something that is about the same around as our jewelry head pins that we're going to be using for the hinges. If you use something that is too big around, it can make your doors wobbly. The thing I'm using is actually too big for mine. A long sewing needle would be a good option. Working in tandem, start to roll your ends up almost all the way to the center point. Repeat the process for all hinge pieces. Test each set by putting a head pin in to make sure they function properly. Once you've got them made, set them aside for now. We've got a few wood pieces that we need to make that aren't included on your pattern. For this, you'll need your wooden shelves that we're going to be using for the top part and a scrap piece of wood. Stand your shelf up on its side and then trace the outline. We'll need 4 of these. I did try to use skinny popsicle sticks for this, but one, they weren't long enough, nor were they wide enough, unfortunately. But if you do have the wider popsicle sticks, that would be perfect for this. These wood strips are going to hide and stabilize our hinges. Next, lay your hinge on the side and mark out where you want to put them. Then transfer the marks to the other shelf. Now we can glue and sandwich the hinges in between the piece of wood and our shelves using opposite hinges. So you'll need both one U hinge and one T hinge. And I also used tacky glue and E6000 to glue this together. Now we can put our pins in and test the hinges to make sure they work. Once you are satisfied with the way that they work, if your pins are a little too long, we can nip them down just a bit. But we want to make sure that the flathead pin is towards the bottom of our doors instead of the top. This will make sure that they're sitting on a flat, even surface, whereas the other end we're going to curl in with a pair of pliers. Once you have the hinges attached to the door with their pins, we can attach the doors to the rest of the cabinet. Using E6000 or some other multi-surface adhesive to the hinges. Then set the door on top of the cabinet as if it were closed. Press down on the hinges to make sure there's good contact to the wood. Then add tacky glue to the wood strip and lay it over top of the hinges. Use clamps to hold it tight until everything is dry. While we're waiting for the doors to dry, we can add the feet to the bottom of the desk. I used 4 wood beads on each side. Once the feet have had time to dry, we can attach the top to the bottom. I did glue 2 popsicle sticks to the back side of the bottom of the desk that stuck up a little bit just to give more support. Once everything is completely dry, give it a good sanding and fill in any gaps that you may have, and then we can move on to painting. And it looks like I don't have enough time to show you all the other things, so I would do that in a separate tutorial coming out in the next few days. And with that, it brings us to the end of our tutorial. I hope this gives you some ideas for your next project, or you join along in making it with me. If you're new, welcome. I'm glad you're here. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment, as it all really helps me out a lot. Next tutorial will be the little box, some of the things on the shelves, and a chair. Thank you, Ginger, and I'll see you next time.